Hi everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm here in lesson 02 begin, and we're in a project that's called dt underscore xgen underscore fur. Now, this project file here inside of Maya is going to contain pretty much everything we need except for maybe a few outside reference images, although I may end up throwing those just into the source images. And it may or may not contain the final renders. Those might be separate. Otherwise, everything you're going to need will be in this dt underscore xgen underscore fur folder. So you can just go ahead and go to File, Set Project, and go ahead and just set to that project. Now we're in lesson 02 begin, that's inside of the scenes folder, and it's really just a blank scene. I just provided it so that you can have a starting point if you'd like. So we're going to be creating fur inside of XGen. But before we jump right into XGen, I wanted to do kind of a lesson to discuss not just our assets, but also our workflow, as well as where to find all of the XGen tools. You'll notice I'm in Maya 2016. They've done a huge overhaul, especially on the interface in this version. So things have gotten switched around a little bit. I do think it's all definitely for the better. Things make a lot more sense in this new version. We don't have 100 different dynamics tabs. Everything is kind of where you expect it to be, except XGen. I've always considered XGen kind of dynamics related just because that's what I'm usually using it for. However, it's located under the modeling menu. You will see the shelf for it here under XGen, and the actual tools are found here under Generate. And you'll see that pops down. There's actually quite a bit in here. So if for whatever reason you don't see this, the shelf or this Generate button with the XGen stuff, all you need to do is go here to Windows, Settings and Preferences, and come down to the Plugin Manager. And if you scroll to the very bottom, or at least to the very bottom on mine, you'll see the XGen plugins here, and you just need to make sure that these two, XGen MR and XGen Toolkit, are both loaded and auto-load, and you should be good to go. Okay, so we're going to be using a pre-made mesh that's actually an Alembic file for our fur. To go ahead and load that in, all you need to do is go up here to Cache, Alembic Cache, and we're just going to say import Alembic. Now it should kind of automatically go here to this dt xgen fur cache Alembic. If not, that is where it's located. And you'll see it's this alembic body.abc file. It's 218 megs, almost 219. And I'll hit import. And this is what you should see. So this is just a quick mesh that I made up inside of ZBrush. I used their Dynamesh and then did some quick retopology, some quick sculpting. Do love playing in ZBrush. It is a very, very quick one, so please excuse the kind of rather crude anatomy. I've also rigged it very kind of quick and crude inside of Maya and threw some cheap animation on it. You kind of see this right here. So but it'll serve our purposes. All we really need is to get fur on this, and I thought it'd be more interesting to put fur on a moving object, especially something with deforming skin, because that's generally what you're probably going to use fur on. So there's a decent amount to work with here. We have areas that kind of collide in. You can see the armpits kind of squeeze down. We have muscles that stretch, and we have areas that kind of compress on the back. Again, I apologize for some of the really crappy weights and absolutely atrocious anatomy. So this is essentially what we have. Now you can see that the scene goes from frame 1 to about frame 120. This clip actually does last longer. You can see that if you go here to the Alembic node, actually hit Control A and we'll choose that there. It actually goes from frame -30 to 150. So we can go ahead and set this to 150, and you can see there's just a little bit more animation as it kind of comes to a stop a little bit. However, this -30 is going to be important. Let's go ahead and see what's going on over there. Let me go ahead and set this to be -30 and -30. And if I scroll back, you can see that actually puts our character into a neutral position. So I gave it about 30 frame run up just so the fur will relax in case we do some dynamics on it. And I wanted to have this position here so that when I actually create my fur, I can use different types of mirroring tools, especially when I'm combing the fur. That way we can comb one side and mirror to the other. So just kind of keep that in mind. You'll probably want to set up your timeline the way I did here, -30 to 150. I might ultimately make this shorter. Not much happens here towards the end. So that's all we really need for this object here. I mean, we just import it. It's a mesh. It's already kind of positioned where we want it. I do have it kind of moved up a little bit, but it's not really super important. You can move it back down if you'd like. I just wanted the bottom of it to sit above the grid over here. I also have UVs on this. Let's go ahead and open that up. And you'll see that there's nothing fancy going on. These are actually just really quick and cheap UVs from ZBrush. I just made some poly groups and used the UV master. The reason I haven't paid too much attention to that is because you'll find that XGen actually does not use traditional textures. It uses PTEX. However, because we're not going to be using any PTEX capable softwares, we're not going to be using Mudbox or anything like that, we're going to need those UVs to actually convert some of our data from texture into PTEX for this. So let's quickly talk about our pipeline. It's really not going to be that complex. We're going to take this mesh here, which is an Alembic file. Again, this was a mesh that was rigged. I just exported the Alembic for two reasons. Number one, it makes it much simpler, especially for tutorial purposes, to just have this here as one simple file without tons of crap filling the scene. And also because anytime you're dealing with anything dynamic or anything with any level of complexity inside of Maya, we want to do anything and everything possible to avoid crashes, slowdown, and really just conflicts, different node clashes and stuff like that. So by not having any bones or deformers in this scene, it should make it relatively easy to work with XGen. We don't have to worry about, again, any problems or conflicts. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this here. We're going to go ahead and use our XGen system. XGen is a primitive generation system that can actually do a variety of different things. We'll definitely look at what it can do, but we're going to focus specifically on this groomable splines feature to create fur. We'll go ahead and create fur across the entire body. We'll comb it and we'll adjust it to we'll almost pseudo sculpt it in areas to kind of match different references that we have. I'll have some references of wolves and things like that. I don't have a specific goal for this. This is more just to teach you about the different tools and how they all come together. But we'll try to make something interesting here. Some kind of werewolf or Bigfoot or some sort of fur design on the body over here. So we're also going to look at creating textures. We're going to convert regular textures into PTEX textures to get some interesting color onto the fur. We're also going to take a look at a couple different ways to create secondary animation. Now keep in mind that this just creates primitives, which are basically instanced geometry. So we want to find a way to actually make it look like it doesn't just deform with the surface, but maybe also reacts to forces like gravity, wind, or even at least cheat it in a way where it looks like it's kind of reacting to those forces, just to give the fur a little bit more life than just following the surface. And finally, after that, we're going to take a look at some different techniques for rendering our fur inside of MetalRay to have it look as realistic as possible. We won't be doing any rendering inside of the software renderer, and that's simply because it does not support XGen, at least not to my knowledge. So we'll be sticking with MetalRay, which, by the way, is also hugely improved here in Maya 2016. I'm absolutely in love with this new version of Maya. Everything about it is absolutely great. Few bugs here and there that are a little aggravating, I won't lie, but for the most part, it's a huge, huge improvement. So I think we've covered most of what I wanted to do here in this lesson. You guys have a rough idea of what we're going to be doing and the asset that we're working with. So in the next lesson, let's go ahead and talk about XGen. I'll show you guys how to load it, as well as what systems we'll be using. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson.